All right, Sistas fans. Now, I've already done a video that some people are fearful that, oh my God, if this Zatima project is really a thing, this spinoff series, does this mean the end of Sisters? And could be, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. But here's one thing I do know. Season 4 has already been filmed, meaning that anything I say in this video is irrelevant until season 5, or at least until a time comes when and if Tyler Perry adds writers to this show other than himself, because we do know, based on his article with the Hollywood Reporter, that he does plan on adding additional writers and directors, not only to upcoming projects but to even some of his current shows, which over the next few years, which hopefully happens sooner than later when it comes to shows like Sisters. But this video is just giving a few thoughts. I don't plan to make this like 20 minutes long, but a few thoughts on how Sisters can be better. Now, I know there are those who are like, well, if you don't like the show, don't. It's the #1 show on my channel. I have no choice. I got bills. So, why are you watching other shit? So, I'm just giving some thoughts on how I think the show could be improved. I feel like regardless, it's still going to be #1, even like the haves and the have-nots got incredibly stale and repetitive during the last few seasons. It was #1 until its final days. I feel like Sisters will continue to do the same, even if it runs for 7 seasons. Because let's say the Zatima spinoff on BET Plus does hella amazing. Well, I mean, it depends on how close that Zach and Fatima are related to Sisters anymore. I mean, they barely have a lot of screen. Zatima barely has screen time in the main Sister series as it is. And if we have their own series focusing on them, then why would you watch Sisters anymore? Especially if eventually we get to the point where Karen just stops going after Zach and Hayden backs off. Then if you're watching the show for the main 4 ladies, I don't know if it's going to be as big as, you know, the Zatima, you know, stuff. But it depends on how Tyler Perry works it out. But like I said, I did a video already about whether or not the spinoff spells the end of Sisters. But I got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About 5 different things to talk about. I've already talked about 1, but here we go. Yeah. Let's get it. More writers, like I said. I don't know if Tyler Perry ever will get writers because of the fact that this show is #1. He's done it all by himself. Not quality of the show aside, in regards to the writing and whatnot. Or excuse me, the production value and whatnot. When it comes to the storytelling and everything, I know everybody has their problems, but regarding the show and the ratings, it's still #1. So why would he add more writers when he's been doing it himself and being #1? Well, maybe because he's listened to the fans and it's like, you know what? Maybe this show needs a breath of fresh air. You know, like a new thought process. Like he said, he'll be more of an overseer on projects and directly involved. But I feel like some fresh minds wouldn't hurt, you know, to give these characters more substance, because the next point is less repetitive dialogue / dragging scenes. Episode 15 last week was a prime example of that. Scenes dragged on for far too long, repetitiveness with the characters. The next point being adding more complex storylines, which forces the characters to grow. Progression, for the love of God. We do not need to have the show running for 8 seasons and you still have Andy in this toxic on and off thing with Gary. Or Karen still pining after Zach. Sabrina uncertain about Calvin. And Danny playing these games with Preston. Now, I'm annoyed with the women, but I'm also confused with the men. Like, why are you still dealing with these women? Preston, you could do so much better than Danny. Find somebody who knows they want you and doesn't mind having you around. Sabrina, you know, I mean, Calvin, find somebody who is aware of who you are sexually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and someone who doesn't allow mouthpieces to speak for them. And Gary, you know, I've mentioned this in the trailer breakdown for this week, so check that out, where I said Gary, I mean, hell, with the therapist, he seems to be doing better after therapy than Andy is in this relationship. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, Karen would, well, Aaron, you know, like, why are you sticking around knowing you're always going to be Karen's #2? So, and Maurice, honestly, like I said before, I wouldn't have minded the whole storyline with him potentially being a mentor-like figure to Q. Not necessarily a love story, but kind of taking Q under his LGBTQ wing and giving him the support that, you know, he found out after he was kicked out on the street by his family. So you didn't have to go the whole bank robbery route because it would have been cool. I feel like instead of focusing more on Zatima because they're on the show, as I said before, add more substance to the stories of the main women. Like, I like Preston's character. I think he's completely fine as a character himself. But I just don't think that it just needs to be one man the entire series. Like, we could switch it up. We know that El Fuego and Danny might have a little fling, but I really feel like with Andy, for example, you can only do the Gary thing for so long, and it's already played out. Like, how many times are we going to see this back and forth when you have so many men who seem to fit the bill as Mr. Right for Andy? She's still going for Mr. Wrong, and it's not unrealistic for that to happen, but I feel like Tyler Perry made Andy go through so much crazy shit with Gary that now everything at this point seems like, you know, lackluster. I mean, we went from the feds being involved to his ex-wife holding her at gunpoint to, oh yeah, his therapist is trying to get with him. It seems like we were at the top of the roller coaster when the series started, and now we're just going down, and it's like you feel dead inside, like, okay, this is what we're doing. The fact that she's still holding on to this man is just, it does nothing but make her look worse and worse as a character. It really does. Like I said, with Danny, I mean, I could talk around in circles like the series does with the repetitive dialogue in regards to the lack of how these characters, just for the life of me, do not develop at all. We just keep seeing the same thing every season. Most of these problems that they have are just things that they cause themselves, and most of us are self-destructive. That doesn't necessarily mean we harm ourselves, we drink, we smoke, or whatever, but sometimes it's emotional because we're indecisive. You know, we want one thing and we get it, but it's not what we want. So it's just crazy how these characters, when it seems like there's progress made in their relationships, there's just like Tyler Perry decides, no, we gotta take it back. We need to run this back up. Make Danny once again second guess herself when it comes to Preston. Make Sabrina say, you know what, hey, I want to be with you, Calvin, but I don't want to commit, and then get jealous, and then say, ooh, now I'm letting my friends influence my thoughts about you after Calvin's told you who he is like 15 times already. It gets old. So why not put some fresh faces in the show? Like, have the women date other men for a change. I mean, seriously, it just adds spice to the recipe. I mean, even in Girlfriends and Living Single, you know, even though Khadijah and Scooter allegedly ended up together at the end of the series, we saw Khadijah date other men. Hell, you know, with Maxine and Kyle, they're on and off again, toxic love. They dated other people. Sinclair and Overton, maybe we had one or two love interests each outside of each other, but that was it. Regine, need I say more? But I just feel like it would make things more interesting to see these characters interact with other men as opposed to the same ones over and over again in the same repetitive storylines that are just annoying at this point. So, that's really all I have to say. I mean, if there are any additional things you want to add, and please don't say less commercials. BET needs to add money like everybody else. So what can you do? It's like me on YouTube. So are there any other ways you think the story could be enhanced? And like I said, I don't come up here to personally drag the show because I like it, even though it's trash at times. I do like the show. My rule is I don't review shows that I absolutely loathe or I feel like it's a chore to watch. So there you go. I know there are shows out there that could possibly give me even more views than Sistas, but you know, I have yet to find them, or I've turned them down because I've tried watching certain shows and I just didn't, you know, roll with it. But I feel like, you know, I'm also on edge given how the haves and have-nots and If Loving You Is Wrong ended, you know, hit shows for own incredible ratings but then got shitty endings. People are wary, especially of The Oval and Sisters. Yeah, you might be #1 now, but that doesn't mean you're going to have a fantastic ending. And I'm not saying a happy ending, but everybody dies. Who wants to see that again? So let's talk about it more in the comment section. Make sure you like and subscribe. And if you want to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App.